I really hope that doesn't get the copyright struck. I mean, getting copyright stroked doesn't sound terrible, but I don't know. It's the implication. It's the implication. I'm also gonna wear this beanie. It's actually kind of warm in my room, but ugh. Gang, gang, gang. Hey, what's good? What's good? How you living? This is just a general question. Anyone in the chat, Josiah, you first, because you're first here. Just anyone, who shows up, after the stream. You guys watching Cyberpunk Edge Runners? I kind of wrote that whole franchise off, but my girlfriend convinced me to check out the anime, and it, bro, it was poppy, kind of made for the game, cheesy cheeseball songs. They have there's a connotation to them now. That connotation being less pew pew pew, it's cool and fun and cyberpunk, and more emotional damage. That's how that feels. I feel emotionally damaged. Not fun, but also fun. It's one of those I hate feeling this bad, but it's a good bad feeling. That's how you can tell the story was good. Sorry, I'm also tweeting out the whole stream. I should do this before we start the stream. But yeah. Oh, Cyberpunk Edge Runners? Oh, that's so okay. CD Projekt Red. The creators of The Witcher video game series. They made a new video game series based off of the Cyberpunk RPG tabletop game and book series from the 80s and 90s. I actually have the Cyberpunk, one of the Cyberpunk books here. It's Cyberpunk 2020. But I don't feel like getting it. It's behind my guitar and all this and long boxes. But anyways, it's the originator of the cyberpunk genre. And CD Projekt Red developed a game, which is a sequel to the tabletop game. And it wasn't good. But I think it was Trigger, Studio Trigger, developed an animated series, an anime, that was based on the IP. Now I'm starting to sound like those those fantasy football comic book dorks who think they know shit about finance, and I don't. I'm just some jackass. But yeah, no. An anime was made to tie along with the video game. The anime is really good. If you're into cyberpunk stuff, that genre, you would love this. Trying to think of something I don't know, Blade Runner. If you're really into Blade Runner, if you're into Neuromancer, stuff like that. I think you might be into Cyberpunk Edge Runners. Also Spider-Man 2099. Like literally, like the consummate like cyberpunk uh, comic book. Um, but yeah, no, like that show's really good. I'm like really into it. Um, Speaking of cyberpunk, actually, um, kind of goes along with like, the first book I picked up this week, which is Vanish #2. Uh, I like haven't read this issue yet, but the first um issue was like I don't know. That book was better than it had any right to be. With the premise that like Donny Cates kind of pitched, I was like, this sounds like absolutely retarded, but like not in a cool kind of retarded way, like in a no, we're cool because we're not cool, but by not being cool, we're actually being cool. Uh, and I was like, this sounds stupid. And then I read the first issue, and I was like, wait, no, I'm stupid because this is amazing. Uh, so I picked up the first issue, or no, I picked up the first issue like a couple weeks ago, and this is issue 2. Um, I'm still going hard with the Daniel Warren Johnson covers because Daniel Warren Johnson is um, art Jesus, and it's not just because he has like long hair and a beard. Like his art's just fantastic. Um, but yeah, I can't wait to check this out properly. And I'm spoiling myself actively. Yep, I keep doing it. I keep doing it. Oh wow, they already page 1, 9/11 based. Donny Cates is based. Uh, yeah. See, this is Donny Cates. Oh wait, 9/11 doesn't happen in this universe. Oh, that's weird and interesting. Yeah. Okay. Never mind. Yeah, you guys gotta check this book out. It's fantastic. Um, I also really like Ryan Stegman's art. Ryan Stegman's like an absolute beast. I've been a big fan of Ryan Stegman since Venom. Um, Hello, Mystical Green Beanie. Hello, Supreme. How you doing, pal? Um, my advice to any new comic book fan: don't ever be a Spider-Man fan. At least in the 616. Um, because being a Spider-Man fan is like being a Star Wars fan. Nothing but pain and divisive reactions. Well, that's kind of the weird thing with Spider-Man right now, right? Um, I saw this whole Twitter thread with um, Jerry Conway just kind of going on about how Spider-Man's archetype is that he's young, so he's always supposed to be young, and that's the point of the character. Which is very weird because I mean Jerry Conway himself is like the dude who was sort of instrumental in growing Peter up throughout the 70s. Um, Regardless of the quality of those initial stories. uh, Jerry Conway's initial run on Spider-Man is not great, but he does a lot of character building for Peter Parker. Um, and Yeah, no, a lot of that material is like crucial in Peter's like development from being the like hey guys, I'm college kid, which even then was uh character growth and development from what Spider-Man had been throughout the 60s into the 70s from Stan Lee. Um, I forgot where I was going with that, but yeah, the Jerry Conway is like but between his first run on like Amazing Spider-Man and his second run with Peter Parker the Spectacular Spider-Man, like it's all about growing the character up. That's the point of Spider-Man. Sorry, a burp like tried to like assassinate me mid truth bomb, but you're not gonna get me this time, nature. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. So that was a weird take that Jerry Conway had on Spider-Man. I don't know what he was trying to say. Like Spider-Man is all about growth, and he he's been all about like regression for the past like decade and a half, and it's weird. Um, it's part of the reason why a lot of Spider-Man fans are just kind of like noping out of that that book and that character entirely. It's really sad. But there are some Spider-Man substitutes out there. Case in point, The Flash. And I don't have. I don't. Wait, no. No, I don't have it. Wait, 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 wait. Are you kidding me? Ah. Yo, where did my books go from? There we go. All right. Ta-da! See, if you're not really into Spider-Man right now, you have The Flash. Because The Flash is the best Spider-Man book on the stands right now. I hate saying it like that, but it just kind of is what it is, unfortunately. Also, side note, Jeremy Adams' Flash run has been really good. I kind of regret like trade waiting on this series. This is definitely a book I really should have been like picking up, like issue to issue. I'm enjoying this book a lot. And this is just like a fun little like one shot, where Flash fights a bunch of like trans-dimensional like multiverse pro wrestlers. It's great. The Flash is great. But yeah, again, Wally West is a character who is emulating what the original like mission statement of like Peter Parker Spider-Man was. You're watching this character grow from. Wait, no, I can make that sentence structure work. You're watching this character grow from being a boy into a man because he's a superhero, not just watching a boy be a superhero. Nailed it. But yeah, no. Jeremy Adams' Flash is great. But I didn't pick this up this week. This is like last week's pull. 9/11 was based. Mystical no, no, like no, 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 like Ryan Stegman and Donny Cates are based for having wizards stop 9/11. It's the real heroes. The real heroes. See, look, Harry Potter's cooler than your stupid like fake Homelander Superman from The Boys. You know, he averted 9/11, but he started another 9/11 with the Brooklyn Bridge. He's not based. Garth Ennis isn't based, but Donny Cates is. He's based package, yo. Hey, what's up, Debbie? How you doing, bud? Scream says the most ironic thing about Jerry Conway's tweet is that he aged Peter from 19 to 21 in his Amazing Spider-Man run and had him enter a more mature adult relationship with MJ. Yes, he did. Which is why I have no idea what the hell he's talking about, but it's, you know, whatever, bro. Whatever. He's like 90, so like he could say whatever he wants and it's fine. I don't know. He also like, okay, he's 90 and wrote some of the most iconic Spider-Man stories of all time. He can say whatever the hell he wants. It doesn't matter. Jerry Conway can say 9/11 space, and I like you can't do anything to him. You know, just what are you gonna do? Hit an old man? You freak out at him? Like, oh no, 9/11's based. Peter Parker should forever be a teenager. You know, you can't hit this old man for saying these things because he's old and he's a cultural icon. I said that and like immediately hair got in my mouth. All right, I'll chill out. I'll behave. Fine. Fine, universe guy. What would you say is the holy Bible of comic books? For me, it's S.H.I.E.L.D. by Jonathan Hickman. I can see that, and I haven't read S.H.I.E.L.D. in its entirety. I only read like the first 6 issues, I think. I read up to the Da Vinci birthing a baby celestial. I read that far, but I didn't really read beyond that. But I like that a lot. And I can see that being someone's like comic book Bible. What is my what would I consider the comic book Bible? Got it. Superman for Tomorrow, because every other page is a Jesus allegory. Checkmate, atheists. Superman's actually Jesus. Didn't see that one coming, did you? You ain't got no retort, huh? Yep. Yep, and the universe is still trying to gag me for just saying words. All I'm doing is telling the truth, guys. Oh, actually, I should change the thumbnail for this too, because like I'm not doing a Batman thing. I'm doing a comic book thing. Let me change. Yeah, let me change this thumbnail real quick, fellas. Let me. All right. We're good. We're good. But yeah, no, comic book Bible. I don't know. East of West. East of West is like my favorite comic book of all time, which is also a Jonathan Hickman book. So, you know there we go. Connections. Connections have been made. That's what this channel's about: making connections and being super smart. We are SMRT here on Mystical Green Beanies Let's Talk Comics podcast channel thing. Yeah, we're the real academics. Am I like still out of focus? Like, hold on a second. Or is my... I don't know. Am I just thinking too hard about it? Am I seeing things? Should I not tell him about the circles? Am I just being crazy? I don't know. I love the Jeremy Adams Flash run. It's tons of fun. Yeah, I know. It's great. It's like one of the best superhero comics that like nobody's talking about right now. Which I kind of hate. If I'm just gonna be completely honest and like go on a mini rant. So much of comics discourse right now, I think, is centered around what we don't like. Yeah, no, just that's how like a lot of crap that like no one likes gets generated, because it's what people are talking about, but no one's talking about like the good shit. No one's talking about Moon Knight by Jed McKay. This book is also great, and no one's talking about it. Nobody's talking about Jeremy Adams' Flash. Nobody's talking about Philip Kennedy Johnson's Action Comics. You know, nobody's talking about like Mark Waid and Dan Mora's run on World's Finest. Like, just no one's talking about Christopher Priest's Black Adam book right now. Like, these are all great comics. No one's talking about them. But you know what people are talking about? Not Tom King's, the other Tom. God damn it, I fell into the trap. Tom Taylor's crappy Superman Son of Kal-El book. People are talking about that. You know, people are talking about that like really crappy Static book. People are talking about, you know, the weird post Hickman, like, hey, let's take Hickman's idea and like kind of just ruin it and wreck it and completely like miss out on all of the subtext and thematic relevance that those books were building, and like just people are talking about that, but no one's talking about the actual comics that are good and the books that like we enjoy. No one's talking about that. I think that's frustrating. It's frustrating to me, you know. And it's frustrating on like multiple levels because nobody's talking about the positives. People who aren't really in the know don't know that, World's Finest and, Vanish and The Flash and the current Al Ewing Venom book exists. People who aren't hip don't know that these are bangers because no one's talking about them. All people know about are the books that like everyone says are trash, which also further feeds the narrative that modern comics are trash. And on top of that, the big companies they don't really care about like quality. They just care about what people are talking about. They just care about what's generating clicks and clickbait and all that crap. So they just produce more of the crap that people are talking about, which is the bad stuff. So I don't know. That's just my whole thing. Like, I don't know. Just let's talk about the cool stuff. Let's talk about the comics that are like really dope and need a signal boost. But yeah, that's just that was my rant. I'm stepping off my soapbox. I just drink my tea over here passive aggressively instead. That's a bot. You're a bot. You're not a person. Alright. 18sex.xyz. That's clearly a bot. I want to boot them. But. I'm worried about the robot uprising in the next, 10, 15 years. This might come and bite me in the ass. You know what? I'm going to let the bot stay here. So it's recorded right here. I was on the forefront of AI rights. While you guys are eating your grub worms in the dirt, your post-judgment day, nuclear Terminator Holocaust, I'm going to be downloaded in the system. Or at least backed up. While I'm exerting my, physical form in, a labor-intense camp. I don't know. Supreme says, also on the divisive reasons amongst fandom, Tim Drake fans and Damian Wayne fans do not get along at all. Really? Yeah, I can see that. Alright, Tevye says get rid of the bot. Alright, I'll get rid of the bot. Alright. I'm doing this for you, Tevye. But just so the AI gods know, this was Tevye's idea, not mine. I was all down with AI rights. But yeah, no, back to Supreme. Yeah, no, I think that schism really just comes from Damian's introduction and Grant Morrison's Batman. And Tim Drake fans never really got over that. Also doesn't help that in the, I guess you call it Act 2 of Grant Morrison's run, when Damian becomes the new Robin, Tim kind of gets shafted, and that goes on well into the reboot. So yeah, no, Tim Drake fans, I get it. I get why Tim Drake fans don't like Damian Wayne fans. It's the same reason why a lot of Wally West Flash fans hate Barry Allen. It's not that Barry Allen's inherently a terrible character. It's just that, after what was it, Flash Rebirth, Barry Allen takes center stage, and then Wally West just kind of and then he continues to well into the reboot. And then all of external media is weirdly based on Wally West comic book material, but they're using Barry Allen instead of Wally. So yeah, I get it. I get it. I get it. 100%. Personally, I think if you want something positive away from the discourse, read Jeremy Adams' Flash Run. Yep, I'm doing it. And read the Peter Tomasi Rebirth Superman. Well, I did, but it came out already. I have all of it collected in trade over here. Um, I really hope Peter Tomasi's at Baltimore Comic Con. Oh, by the way, hey guys. So I'm actually going to go to Baltimore Comic Con this weekend. I'm gonna try to make a vlog. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna get like a bunch of my stuff signed. Hopefully, I know Philip Kennedy Johnson's gonna be there, so I'm gonna try to get some of my like War World Saga material signed by him. Um, I also know that Mark Wade's gonna be there, so I'm probably gonna like try to get some of my Mark Wade stuff signed. Greg LaRocque is also gonna be there too, and he is the artist for. You guys know his art. He's the dude who did a bunch of like the '90s Mark Wade Flash material. He's the artist who did Return of Barry Allen. He's that guy. And he did the bulk of like '90s Flash, I think. So, I'm excited to get like an autograph from him. He's one of my favorite like Flash artists. Who else is gonna be there? I also know Garth Ennis is gonna be there. I have some like stuff that I want Garth Ennis to sign, like Sarah, the TKO graphic novel. I know like people don't really talk about Garth Ennis's war comics. Some of that is because Garth Ennis is like a pretentious like little yeah about like superheroes for babies and stupid people and blah, 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 blah. I write real comics about war. Okay, Garth. I like his stuff. It's just there's an attitude towards it that yeah, but no, I really fuck with Garth Ennis as a material. So I'm gonna try to get like Sarah signed. That sentence came out weird, but you know I'm gonna try to get my comics by him signed. Also, like I think Howard Chaykin's gonna be there, and I might have some of his like Lobo stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna be at Baltimore Comic Con. If anyone who's like here watching is gonna go to Baltimore Comic Con, hey, let me know. You know, hit me up on Twitter or Instagram. Then you're like, hey, let's link up, cause you know I'll be there. I'm gonna be there on Saturday and Sunday. No, Friday and Saturday. I'm not going Sunday. I'll work on Sunday, but yeah, I'm gonna be there Friday and Saturday. But wait, where was I? On comics reading. This from Supreme Omega. I've been reading Criminal by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. Highly recommend it. Brubaker's creator-owned work is great. He's one of the great writers in crime comics. I've been hearing that a lot. I actually have some Ed Brubaker crime comics. I have Incognito, which is like really cool. I also read the first volume of Velvet. I like that quite a bit. I'm trying to think. Is the not the Phillips series? There's a book with I think Darwin Cook that he does. It's kind of like a Dick Tracy homage. It's not The Spirit. Um, the Parker series. I think is the Parker series. Oh, so that's like just Darwin Cook. Okay. Okay. I could also see like Brubaker like working on that too, because Brubaker's like really into crime stories. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna check out um, Criminal. That's a book that a lot of people have told me nothing but good things about. Um, People also talk of the terrible Amazing Spider-Man book going on right now. Outside of people on Twitter, I don't really see anyone really talking about that book. Spider-Man's just a character who has fallen off, unfortunately, um, and has never really gotten back on the horse. Um, no, it's really unfortunate, but that happens sometimes, sadly. Um, Ram v Swamp Thing and Tom King's Human Target are really great too. Oh, okay. You're like the first person. Okay, it's funny, Josiah. You're like the first person I've heard say something positive about Tom King's Human Targets. Um, so I'll check that out. Um, per your recommendation. So if I don't like it, I'm 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 hunting you down. I'm coming for you. I'm gonna get you. I blinked. I feel like that like completely delegitimized my entire threat. But like, you, you know what I'm saying. um, I know that like the Justice League International plays like a big part in that. Um, I don't know. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not a big JLI fan. Like I mean I can like kind of get the appeal from like the like '90s kind of perspective. Um, like enough with like the cool Justice League. It's not cool because it's the Justice League. It's cool. You gotta make the Justice League like silly, like the Guardians of the Galaxy, or I mean, you wouldn't say that in the '90s because the Guardians of the Galaxy weren't like what they are now. But like, no, you gotta make Justice League like silly and like you gotta fill them with like a bunch of like the lovable losers plus Batman. Um, that's how you gotta make. I can only take it seriously if it's stupid. I I get that, and I don't know, but I kind of have the Grant Morrison mindset, um, or much rather the Metamorpho mindset that Grant Morrison kind of like puppeteers through Metamorpho's mouth, and I think it's like the first issue of New World Order where Metamorpho's like, well, come on guys, we gotta pack it up because the real heroes are gonna be here. Like, yes, I want to read a Justice League book that has like Batman, and Superman, and Wonder Woman, and the Flash, and Green Lantern, and Aquaman, and it's cool and not stupid. Yeah, yeah. I know, fuck me, right? Like it's a novel concept. I'd rather the Justice League be cool instead of like corny and silly. It's, uh, um, I'm sure that book's really good though. It's just it's I don't know. Once I get over that bias, and I will one day, um, I'll check it out. Um, Supreme says on comic book discourse, how come we tend to ignore modern creator-owned indie comics by Image, Dark Horse, Boom, etc., etc.? It's always the big two. So I think a large part of that is one, superheroes kind of dominating the commercial sphere, and that's in everything. That's gaming. That's on film. That's uh, uh, pop culture at large. Superheroes are the go-to thing, and Marvel and DC have kind of cornered the markets of, you know, the superhero genre, if you will. And also just kind of like in a sort of black pilled kind of way. Um, Marvel and DC have like a monopoly on uh, the superhero conversation, um, because those characters uh, dwarf the printed comics page, and they unfortunately kind of like eclipse um, the medium from which they're born. Because in the West here, we have a weird, like kind of warped perspective that comics, it's the silly bullshit, stupid, childish puerile thing over there. But like film and cinema and video games, that's legitimate storytelling mediums. Ooh. But the comics are still kind of like where those characters come from, so there's like some prestige there, and in like the eyes of Joe Schmo pop culture bro, and oh, because of all of those factors, and again, chief among them, just the medium of comics is not being really well respected. A lot of the material outside of the big two just gets drowned out in the conversation. Granted, when you talk to people outside of like the online Twitterverse, YouTube sphere, I think there's a lot of people who like really enjoy indie books. Like, in fact, I think there's a lot of people who enjoy indie books a great deal more than Marvel and DC's material, but those people aren't terminally online like I am. So, but yeah, that's why a lot of the comic book conversation comes down to Marvel and DC, frankly. Toby says, personally, I like Damian Wayne Robin with my boy Jonathan Samuel Kent. Yeah, that was a cool pairing. It is kind of funny, though, that DC has paired up Damian with two sons of Superman. They thought someone wouldn't notice, huh? I'm not sure if you guys remember in I think it was Multiversity. And this is like pre-New 52. So this is back when like Christopher Kent was like still a character that like DC sort of semi cared about. But yeah, no, like there's a whole thing where like DC was teasing that like Christopher Kent and Damian would be like, the super sons of the 21st century. That was like a brief blink and you miss it kind of era. And then New 52 happens, and then Christopher Kent just gets dropped from continuity. And DC's like, here's Jonathan Kent. Yeah, fuck that Christopher Kent kid. Who cares? No one remembers him. Here's John. John's the Superboy, and John's gonna be the best friend to Damian Wayne now. I don't know. I just think that's always funny to me, but it is what it is. I remember Christopher Kent. And it's funny, like a lot of contemporary DC Comics fans have like and it's a righteous, sense of anger, but so mad about John Kent being aged up. And I get it, but at the same time, like, dog, I remember when, like, Christopher Kent was a character in that, like, cool Jeff Johns Superman story. And then he comes back, and he's part of the super family, kind of. He's, like, the Kryptonian Nightwing, and it's dope. But, then the whole New 52 happens and goes away. Written out of continuity. And then he comes back and he's evil. In Rebirth. So, it's like that meme where the one dude's like, oh, I got an arrow in my heart. You don't know my pain. And the other dude he's talking to was like all these arrows and knives and slings, like just covering his back like a cape, and he's just bleeding to death. And he's like, yeah, I know. I'll never know your pain, ever. ever, ever. That's John Kent fans talking to Christopher Kent fans. It's like, yeah, no, dude. It's at least you still have your guy. Oh, Supreme. Question: do you feel the U.S. comics industry is still behind the curve compared to Japan, France, and Britain? Because I feel manga, United Kingdom comics, and French comics are better at capturing new readers than America. Yes, and a large part of it is cultural norms. I think a big problem that you see in the American comic sphere, like I said earlier, just comics aren't taken seriously. Comics are not viewed as a legitimate storytelling medium. Um, they just aren't. And a large part of that is just it's the legacy of uh, not the Nuremberg trials, but the hearings with like Frederick Wertham and all that shit, with EC Comics. A lot of the problem of uh, America's like cultural perception of comics comes down to what the industry kind of had to turn itself into throughout the 50s, 60s, and 70s, um, just to like stick around. You know, the comics code did irreparable damage to the comic book industry, for this very reason. Um, and yeah, no, you just have uh, what, like two whole generations who just view comics as like silly kid shit for like, 5-year-olds and emotionally stunted like 45-year-olds. um, and that's just a problem that like I don't think Japan really has. It's a problem that I don't think France really has. I don't really know much about like the UK and their history in comics, but like I don't think that's a problem that the UK comic scene has. So yeah, no, that's why I think uh, the U.S. is kind of struggling in terms of uh, maintaining interest with like a wider audience in comics. Um, Also, the boys' club doesn't help. The boys' club. The whole thing like, hey, let's hire our friends, even if our friends are like inept and can't write or draw or edit books at all. Um, and we just go through like a string of like really shitty comics. But I can't get them fired, and I can't, uh, have them go off on like a training arc and come back when they're better and get good, because they're my friend. Um, that also plays a large part into it, but that's really any industry. If you're just gonna keep it a buck. Um. Oh. Oh, thank you, Tevia. Yeah, I hope I do hope I have fun at Baltimore Comic Con. And Tevia also asked, what is my opinion on James Gunn being in charge of DC Films now? Cool. I really like James Gunn as like a writer and a director. I like James Gunn's movies a lot. I've been a big fan of him since Slither and PG Porn. His sensibilities are my sensibilities, so I fucks with it. I also really like the Suicide Squad. I rewatched that recently. That is definitely one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. It's up there for me. Um, and also it did a thing that I always feel like every successful comic book movie has to do and should do, is it made me want to go back and read the John Ostrander Suicide Squad comic books. So success there. And I also really like Peacemaker. Peacemaker's a fantastic series. Um, in fact, I'd say it's like it's the best comic book series that came out this year. So yeah, I'm down with James Gunn leading um the DC films in the new era. I'm down with that. Um, it is gonna be interesting seeing how James Gunn approaches the producer role. Um, because that's like a completely different realm of storytelling. Uh, like what Kevin Feige does is, I know naysayers will disagree with me, but what Kevin Feige does is storytelling. You know, he is a like large scale, like kind of, you know, 8-dimensional chess kind of storyteller. Um, and with James Gunn being a film like a director, a filmmaker, a screenwriter, um, and like having that background in storytelling, it's gonna be interesting seeing what he does when he like takes a step back and he's kind of the producer who's directing the director to realize sort of his vision. I think that's very interesting. I'm excited. Fuck, I don't have my glasses. I was gonna do like the not Screen Junkies, the half in the bag, like put my like nerd glasses on and go like, I'm really excited for the future of this franchise. But like unironically, I am excited for the future of this franchise. And why the fuck is my? Hold on a second. Is that better? That it's like kind of better. It's not great. It's not. It's not great. Not terrible. 3.6 Runkin. Not great. Not terrible. That was a fucking travesty. I mean, in real life, but you know the Chernobyl events. That shit fucked with me. Oh, what's up, 616 man? How you doing? Supreme says, I feel Chris Kent was more interesting in concept, but the execution was iffy because Clark and Lois adopting a son of General Zod is a cool idea. I know, I think it's a cool idea too. Except that they don't really do much with the idea. Like I think after that initial arc, like Christopher Kent winds up being like the secret key to locking the Phantom Zone forever. So like Chris Kent like goes off and like he just lives in the Phantom Zone, and because time works differently in the Phantom Zone or whatever the fuck. In a weird way, DC did like the artificially like aging up thing to Christopher, just as they did with John. It's weird. They did it twice with both the Superman sons. That's so weird. That's wow. What the hell? It says the most widely read era of American comics is the Great Depression in World War II. It wasn't just young boys; it was also girls, adult men, women, soldiers, etc., etc. Yeah, it was. But that's also because we didn't have all the distractions that we have now. You know, people actually read a lot back then because we didn't have, like, not everybody had a TV. Not everybody had. I mean, ain't nobody had a computer back then. Unless you could fit that whole ass thing in your basement, which could like get cluttered with moths and shit. Like, there's no way you had a computer in your basement, or anywhere on your premises, outside of like a military bunker. But yeah, no, we just had books and we had comic books. If you were lucky, you had a television set, like a crappy kind of like tiny television set that was like I don't know, the size of my fucking deodorant or some shit. Like that's it. People just read back then. Um, 616 man says, "Why do critics expect an art house drama out of the Black Adam movie?" Got me fucking beat, dog. Um, Granted, I don't know why critics, okay, the whole Black Adam thing is bizarre because I think that movie's stupid. And you can see my review for it on the channel. It is literally just the cutscenes from Injustice. Like, that's what that movie feels like. It's a fight movie. It's a power scaling fight movie. That's what that movie is. And it lets you know that very early on. So that's why I don't really have I'm not really all that broken up that, like, I didn't get Hamlet. It's just a dumb action movie. Alright, cool. But we live in this culture right now where so much of lowbrow entertainment, really lowbrow content, low culture content, which is what comic book movies are. It's what it is. It has been for a while. Has kind of had this championing from online voices to go like, no, see, Ant-Man is art. No, Joss Whedon's Avengers is art. Actually, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the 21st century's Iliad. So much of that actual mental illness has permeated through the last decade, and yeah, I don't know, dude. Combating that narrative are people who actually have brains in their head, who are like, dude, no, it's not that deep. It's man in tights fights other man in tights, and then movie over, and it's fun, and you clap and cheer. It's fucking gladiator arena, and you film yourself in the movie theater like you're at sports. That's what it is. It's a roller coaster ride. Martin Scorsese is right. That's what these are. These movies are roller coaster rides. They're not art. They're just dumb movies, and they're fun movies. It's okay that these movies are fun and dumb. Okay, I don't know, but I don't know. There's been this whole narrative that they're high art and all this crap from the internet critics, and I don't know. Black Adam comes out and it's just not that, and it's very aware and open and honest about it not being that or wanting to be that, and critics are having a meltdown over that. And it's just, I don't know, very weird. We live in weird times, man. We live in very weird times. I don't. But 616 says, have you ever heard the argument of it's not the original creator's version? If it's not the original creator's version, then everything else is fiction BS. I have heard that, and I mean, I get that to some degree. But on the other hand, there. I like the Ian Fleming James Bond novels. I really like those. But I love the John Gardner James Bond novels. Yeah, I think James Bond as a character really evolves in a way that I don't think Ian Fleming could have possibly conceived of, just because he died before the Cold War really resolved, and there's a lot of stuff there, and I don't know, I really like John Gardner's take on James Bond. You know, I really like uh, um, Mark Waid's Flash. You know, the Gardner Fox Flash is cool. Actually, you know, even going beyond that, like, I don't know who the hell created the original Jay Garrick Flash, but like, you know, the stuff from like the Silver Age up to the Bronze Age, I like that way more than the Jay Garrick Flash comics. Or like what I've read of the Jay Garrick Flash comics, which is like 2 issues, I think. But I don't know, I don't really vibe with that mentality. I think if a creator or you know a creative team establishes a character, and then other creators kind of like carry the torch and you know drag that character into the later decades, then I don't know, that character doesn't really belong to the original creators anymore. Um, Especially if that character like sees major character growth and change um, in the years since. Um, like Superman is not like Siegel and Schuster Superman. Like the Superman that we see like right now in pop culture, and the Superman that people who like, you know, the people who both love and hate Zack Snyder's Superman, you know, like in like the image of what they have in their head of what Superman is and should be, is not what Siegel and Schuster created at the fuck all, you know. Just like the Spider-Man that we kind of see in pop culture and comics, from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and now is not Stan Lee and Steve Ditko's Peter Parker. It's not like not at all in the least bit. So yeah, I don't know. Different creative voices take characters and just change them over the years, and I don't know. Sorry, I'm going on a whole tangent, but yes, I have heard the argument, and I disagree with it immensely, because I think if we like put any stake in that, then you'd have to like essentially like delegitimize a lot of like really legitimately good art, and I'm not prepared to do that. I'm not prepared to write off Grant Morrison's run on Doom Patrol and say it's bad because it's not the original Doom Patrol. Frankly, I'm not prepared to write off Transformers Armada because it's not the original Transformers Generation 1. You know, I'm not prepared to do that. I'd also have to like write off the Ultimates. I think the Ultimates is great. I think the Ultimates is peak Marvel. I'm not doing that. No. Supreme Omega says, and it's not just Spidey, but I feel like the issues with 90s Marvel are also rooted in the 80s. Like we complain about bloated events like Onslaught, but before that, there were bloated Secret Wars 2 and Inferno, which I've never read, but I've been told exactly that. You know, a lot of the problems that you see in the 90s are really just like products of like weird faux pas successes from the 80s, where like everyone's kind of like learned the wrong lesson. But you could also say the same thing for the 2000s and how the past decade was like ultra violent and gritty and grimdark and New 52 bad because it's grimdark. Yeah, motherfuckers cheered for Jeff Johns' Teen Titans. I mean, granted, people didn't cheer for Identity Crisis, but like, Identity Crisis is like way darker, like way way darker than anything that came out of the New 52. Anything. Like, like I don't know. There's Jeff Johns literally wrote in Infinite Crisis Superboy Prime like slaughtering the crappy D-list Teen Titans that nobody cared about. Like just, and it's a gory, violent page too. Like but the problems of the later 2000s comics, the grim dark comics, or the era that everyone likes to point to as the grim dark era for comics, actually starts in the late 90s, early 2000s. You know, it starts with Brian Michael Bendis having like a zombified was it Jack of Hearts? Sorry, I'm not like a big Avengers guy, but like I think like Jack of Hearts, like his corpse literally walks up to like Avengers Mansion and just blows up. You know, and then you have like Tony Stark going like a drunken rant at like the United Nations and kind of like joke about it. He's gonna like murder a Latvian ambassador just on the United Nations like speaker floor. Like, nah, dude. Like the dark and gritty, grim dark 2000s or 2010s actually starts in the early 2000s. So like, it's the same rule that applies, I feel, to the 90s to the 80s. People complain about like the 90s being like kind of shameless and bloated, but like you see a lot of that in the 80s. You see a lot of it in the 80s. Tevye says, personally, I love Superman, Clark Kent, and Lois Lane being parents to John. I can see that. I still have a thing where I just don't like Superman as a dad, personally. But like a lot of that's just my personal bias. Like I don't like Superman as a father. I feel like it's too obvious. I think the infinitely more interesting idea is having Batman. You know, this guy who lives this like, you know, on the edge kind of like life or death lifestyle. Make him the dad. I think it's really interesting having him be the dad and having Superman, who's like this ultimate like, you know, kind of paternal champion. Him and Lois can't conceive. I think that's very interesting. You know, playing up the fact that like Clark Kent is alone, and he will be alone. And he can't really get what he wants. I think there's something really fascinating about that idea. But I don't know. I that's just me. Oh, see you, Tevye. Good night. 616 Man says Michael Bay's being honest as usual. That he makes dumb, fun action comedy dramas. Remembers the era where everyone had nonstop complaining about Bay in repetitive reviews and analyses. Yeah. I don't know. That's also like the dawn of the armchair critic on YouTube. Which, weirdly enough, the dudes over at like Half in the Bag like parodied, but like when the internet kind of exploded into like what it is now, like just what they parodied just kind of came to fruition on a grand scale. Very weird. New 52 Teen Titans was so horrible. Yeah, I didn't read it. Have fun. There were some like interesting ideas though, in what little bit of it that I read. I personally really think it's an interesting idea of making Beast Boy red. You know, kind of tie him in more intricately with Alan Moore's kind of like, you know, the red, the green kind of ideas. from Swamp Thing and all that. I thought that was a good move. I get why people hated it because it doesn't look like the Teen Titans I know and love from that cartoon that doesn't actually reflect the comics that they're adapting. But yeah, whatever. But there's some stuff in it that I thought was pretty cool, but on the whole, it didn't really hold my interest. Supreme says the reason why Moore felt Spidey lost his purity as a character after Ditko left was that he liked in the Ditko run Peter aged in 100% real time and had an emphasis on grounded street level crime. I can see that. Because once you get to like the 70s, Spider-Man's fighting like Big Wheel and like all this other like cheesy shit. Like the Triad Dragons or whatever. Like Spider-Man comics get very weird. It's funny. I was actually having a discussion about what's this fuck? Jim Shooter, with my buddy Jack Genocide, who's been on the channel before. You can check out the one video that we made, where we talk about like the Church of Marvel and DC, but we kind of talked about how like in a weird way like the Marvel universe starts with in kind of like a grounded space. Like especially compared to like the DC universe, which is just like everything everywhere all at once. But the Marvel universe kind of starts out as this like fairly grounded kind of thing, and there's like rules to it. You know, there are cosmic characters, there are state level characters, there are street level characters. There were freedom fighters here and there and whatnot. So like it's a universe that like makes sense, and characters fill specific roles. So then you get to like the 70s and just all that shit goes out the window. Well, the 70s is when you get like Daredevil teaming up with Black Panther on the Avengers, and you're like, wait, what? Why are these characters interacting with each other? What is happening right now? But yeah, no, I can totally see Alan Moore feeling that way about Spider-Man, which makes me very interested to know if Alan Moore read Spider-Man in the 80s, because Spider-Man in the 80s I feel is kind of like a return to form for the character, at least from what I've read. 616 Man says Marvel Disassembled era, 2004 to 2012, starts with Avengers Disassembled and basically ends with Avengers vs. X-Men. DC Crisis era from like 2004 to 2011, Identity Crisis, and ends with Flashpoint narrative through lines. Yeah, I can I can vibe with that. Although I'm trying to think, when did Tower of Babel come out? Because I think the real like spark that ignites DC's whole like descent into darkness, fatherless action. But no, I feel like the spark that like lights DC's descent into like darkness, ironic, like weirdly, I could have worded that better, but I think that starts with Mark Waid and I think Howard Porter, but I'm not sure. The Tower of Babel, the Justice League book. But also, you know what? No, shit, man. You know what? I think starts DC's descent. I think it's No Man's Land. Yeah, no, I think No Man's Land is the thing that like really has DC kind of like go like, the kids like dark and gritty, so let's make everything dark and gritty. And then when you get to Identity Crisis, that is DC's going like, oh, you want dark and gritty. and then they just like rip the condom off and go like, all right, we're gonna go all the way dark and gritty on y'all. You ain't seen nothing yet, baby. I really think that's like Identity Crisis is it's not the start of it, but that's when you start to feel it. But no, I completely agree with like the disassembled era kind of like beginning this weird kind of age with Marvel. And you say that it ends with Avengers versus X-Men. I don't think it ever ended. I think Hickman tried to end it with his run on the Avengers and later Secret Wars. But then it just kind of kept going. Like I still think we're in that disassembled era. And I think some of what Jason Aaron is doing with the Avengers is like his attempt to put the genie back in the bottle. The problem is I don't think Jason Aaron like really gets the Avengers. Like he's kind of like writing the Avengers like the Justice League, and it's like that's okay. Okay. But I do think that era is gonna come to a close relatively soon, though. I'm actually looking forward to what Brian Hitch has coming down the pipeline with his Avengers run. Yeah. I hope it's like a return to like a more classic Avengers. Supreme says on Bendis' Avengers, Peter becoming a full-time Avenger was a big mistake, and in my opinion, was where the road to One More Day started. 100% agree. 100% agree. 616, Spider-Man being an Avenger, another endless and meaningless broken fan base debate of pick and choose your own personal continuity BS. Yeah, I guess. Spider-Man's whole thing is that he does not get along with the superheroes of the Marvel Universe because when he first met everyone, he was like an asshole 16-year-old. And also just, he's not a team player. Spider-Man is not a team player. Spider-Man is exactly what people like to say Batman is. And that he does not play well with others, and he does not get along with other superheroes. That's Spider-Man. It's not Batman. Batman gets along with the Justice League fine. I don't know. But, yeah, Spider-Man shouldn't really be an Avenger. I don't feel. Also, I don't think Spider-Man should have, like, a spider family. That's completely missing the point of the character. But, whatever. 616 Man says, originally, Jack Kirby's Eternals wasn't part of the Marvel Universe and was set in its own version of the real world where Marvel is a comic book company. Oh, that would have been really interesting. Huh. I like that idea. Yeah, I like that idea quite a bit. It's essentially what like John Byrne and Jim Shooter would kind of do eventually down the line in the 80s with like Next Men and like the New Universe and stuff like that. Ah, interesting. Kirby was ahead of the curb. B. Justice League Tower of Babel 2003, 2000. Really? No, it's that late. I could have sworn that it was like at least like the turn of the century. Yes, 2000. Yeah, Tower of Babel came out in 2000. See, I'm not crazy. I mean, I am crazy, but like, I'm not crazy. I know my dates and times accurately, kind of. Maybe not really. So I have to look it up. The internet knows its dates and times. Supreme says on Watchmen, this is Alan Moore and David Gibbons' love letter to all of Ditko's work. I was at Didio's work. from his '60s Marvel work to his horror work and his Charlton creations, like The Question and Ted Cord and Blue Beetle. Yeah, no, I noticed that. Um, and like I don't know, just whenever people bring it up, um, it also makes the choice of having the 9-panel grid, uh, being utilized, um, all the more like kind of obvious. Like, oh yeah, that this is a love letter to Ditko, because Ditko was like a big proponent of the 9-panel grid. Um, like you read like some of Ditko's later material after Spider-Man, it's very well, even in Spider like the Ditko Spider-Man stuff, it's very kind of like claustrophobic, and it feels kind of unnerving. Um, I still wonder though. I still wonder what the DC universe would look like if DC just let Alan Moore just go ahead and go hog wild and pig crazy on those Charleston characters with Watchmen. Fascinating, fascinating world we'd live in. Um, let's see. 616 says the modern age of comics, the mid '80s to present, dark and gritty, never ends. Dark and gritty, hit the gritty. You know what? Oh, I don't think you guys would be able to see me do the gritty. I also just don't feel like doing the gritty. I'm tired. I work on like a concrete floor. My feet can't move after, after like a certain period of time. Um, yeah, Babel came out in 2000. That book is like hella old. Um, Supreme Omega says on the '80s Hobgoblin mess. Ironically, the marriage may have saved the Spidey books because one part of that messy era that fans liked was MJ's character arc as she became Peter's friend and confidant. Oh yeah, 100% agree. Which is all the more weird that current Marvel, the current Marvel regime just does not like the Spider marriage. It's so, definition of counterintuitive. Um, 616 Man says Spider-Man from its origins in 1962 to 1994. It was known for having real-time characterization where characters grew and changed even after it adopted a sliding timescale. Death in Clone Saga killed that. Yep. Yep. Um, I still have books here. I do want to show you some of the books I got though. I picked up. I'm not sure if you guys. Oh, I think this is like from 616 Man, or it might be for Supreme. But speaking of books that aren't from Marvel and DC, that are really cool that like no one talks about. I picked up this book called Project Superpowers. It's a Dynamite comic um, that utilizes a bunch of the public domain characters that like no one really wants to use. Um, and so far it's like really interesting. Although looking at some of these looking at some of these like character designs, I can tell why no one wanted to pick them up. Like these, these are awful. um, but I will say, kind of cool in a weird way. Like the like okay, the tone of this book is very pulp, and I mean it's fitting because all these characters come from that pulp, like comics age, um, like all that too. That's just straight up Blue Beetle, the Scarab. You can't tell me that's not Blue Beetle, but yeah, no, like a lot of these pulp characters kind of um, are thrown into this whole situation involving World War II and Hitler. This is a really interesting bit where uh, the superheroes are uh, talking about how Hitler's concentration camps are actually these like mass uh, like ritualistic like sacrifice chambers. Um, this is like very fascinating stuff. Uh, I like this book a lot so far. Um, the Dynamite Shared Universe. Um, in a weird kind of way. And I know this is going back to the Marvel DC well, but like specifically in the case of DC, this is the vibe I'm looking for from DC. Um, like I don't need like hardcore sex scenes or uh like actually you're Superman started a genocide. Like I don't need that, but it would be cool to like have more of a pulp kind of tone for characters like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, because that's the era they essentially come from. They're pulp characters, so it'd be cool if if DC like kind of returned to that with them, especially Superman. If anything, people are like talking about the next Henry Cavill Superman movie. He's talking about like how it's gonna be like fun and more uplifting and all that, and that's cool. But I want some pulp shit in there. Like I want that movie to be kind of pulpy, kind of in the same way that like Man of Steel was pulpy. Although Man of Steel was like pulpy in like a weird science fiction kind of way. I think something that like general audiences would vibe with a little more is kind of like an Indiana Jones style pulp. Like an action adventure kind of pulp. I would like to see that with Superman on film moving forward. But Project Superpowers is like really cool. In fact, I think this is written by the same guy who wrote Earth X. It's like Jim Kruger or something. Yeah, Jim Kruger. Earth X is great as well. That's another one of those books, much like The Authority, that I think is like really important and no one talks about. Just a damn shame. Supreme says, on the Hobgoblin saga, Quesada, Zeb Wells, and the other Brand New Day people idolized the Hobgoblin mystery as the perfect arc, but it wasn't. It was just DeFalco and Chris Priest or Jim Shooter. It became a mess. Or just ask, those guys. Well, okay. Here. Okay, look, I see you. I see you. And I recognize and I appreciate that you're whipping out your intellectual penis here. But maybe hike that jump back in, because what we're not gonna do on the channel. What we're not gonna do. We're not gonna slander the Hobgoblin saga, because the Hobgoblin saga is really cool. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, I also watched the Scott Nicewander. What the dude like Nerd Sync. I saw the video too, but Hobgoblin's like the best Spider-Man villain of all time, and the Hobgoblin saga is great, and I love Hobgoblin Lives. I adore those comics. I'm sorry, I know there's some like backdoor turmoil, like behind the scenes drama. I get that, but the Hobgoblin's cool as shit. So the universe can't take that from me. Truth can't take that from me. I don't care. It's great. I love Roger Kingsley. It's fantastic. 616 Man says, the original Marvel and DC Comics universes feel like they ended in the mid-90s, or in the case when their first uh, ongoing series ended and rebooted and renumbered. Um, well, for DC, that's like post-crisis. So, I mean, going off that, then the DC universe died after Crisis on Infinite Earths. Um, which I mean can be argued, uh, but I won't do that. Supreme says also when Watchmen and Ditko. I feel this is why Zack Snyder was wrong for Watchmen. I feel like he's more suited for Frank Miller and Jack Kirby. Oh yes, yes. Um, and I've been saying that forever. I really like the Zack Snyder Watchmen movie. I think it's really cool, but Zack Snyder's not the right guy for Watchmen. Zack Snyder's the type of guy you get on like a Justice League movie or a Superman movie adapting John Byrne and a lot of the '90s stuff. Zack Snyder's the guy who you get to adapt the Fourth World. You know, or the Eternals, or I could see a case being made for Zack Snyder being the director of like the Infinity Saga. Yeah, I can see that, but Watchmen's not so much. Watchmen is something that like not David Lynch. Although that'd be cool. That'd be a David Lynch Watchmen adaptation. It'd be cool. Wouldn't make a lick of sense, but it'd be amazing. Oh man, I'm trying to think. What's dude's name? David Fincher. David Fincher's the guy who you get to direct Watchmen. David Fincher's he's the perfect guy for Watchmen. Like his style suits the Alan Moore like I guess sensibility for that book way better than Zack Snyder. It's also the reason why I think David Fincher would have made an amazing Spider-Man movie, pun intended. I mean, I wish we got that David Fincher Spider-Man movie, especially just based off of some of the interviews and like how he talks about what that movie would have been like. That movie would have been great. I would have loved that, but I also just don't think in that post Joss Whedon Avengers kind of world people would have reacted to that well. Because that's essentially what like the Mark Webb Spider-Man movie turned into. It would have been like the reboot that would have come out like in that era. People were real. It's the big reason why I think Man of Steel had such a legacy of like failure. Up until recently, where everyone likes to fucking claim they were always a Man of Steel fan, but people just weren't really looking for like, dark or superficially dark comic book movies. And David Fincher would have delivered a dark and fucked up Spider-Man movie, even though I think that's perfectly fine for Spider-Man, but the general public said The Amazing Spider-Man was dark and gritty, and that movie for damn sure is not dark and gritty. I still to this day don't know what people are smoking when saying that, but this must be some good ass meth because they are seeing a world that just does not reflect reality. Supreme Omega says, I feel like Hobgoblin. I like Hobgoblin. Okay, cool. You're redeeming yourself. He is a great villain and a worthy successor to Norman Osborn, but it's a pity that Stern didn't finish the arc as he originally intended in the 80s. That's true. No, that's definitely true. Cool. I just thought you were like trying to slander the Hobgoblin, and I was Look, I won't. I'm not a zealot, but for the Hobgoblin, I'll get pretty close to it. You know, I'll get there. Um, 616 Man says, where do you think the original Marvel Universe dies? Just before Bendis picks up his run on Avengers. I don't remember the creative. I don't remember the story, but I know the creative team was Kurt Busiek. I think Kurt Busiek is like, yeah, he's like the last of the classic, you know, kind of like Marvel guys. I mean, Straczynski comes on and does like a pretty, I think, classic Spider-Man story, while also like bringing that character kind of into the 21st century. Um, but like on the whole, it ends with like that Busiek era, like 2004 ish, 2003, 2004. Yeah, that's where the Marvel Universe like dies, I think. Um, and then like a decade later, Jonathan Hickman like gives it like a proper burial with Secret Wars. Um, Spring says, just like Crisis with DC, I feel the '80s Secret Wars event is the original sin of Marvel Comics. Yeah, I could see that. Um, 616 Man says, I like edgy, dark and gritty reboots. Me too. Me too. Hey, culture. There's like nothing in this now. I drank all my tea, but culture. Ah, fucking teabag smack me in the nose. Um, 616 Man says, yeah, the original Secret Wars 1984 does feel like the end. Yeah, I can see that. And Marvel relaunched, or Marvel like went like a reconstruction period post Onslaught. Um, yeah, like yeah, well into the Hickman, Fantastic Four and Avengers and Shield era, definitely. Um, oh, I got like one last book. Actually, two books, and then I'm gonna probably call it a night. Um, the other book I got this week is Radiant Black Volume 3. I haven't read this volume yet, but I really like Radiant Blacks Volume 1 and 2. Um, and yeah, I'm down. I'm down for more Invincible Power Rangers. Um, and last but not least, is like the coup de grace of the stream. I have Red Sonja, The Ballad of the Red Goddess. This is by Roy Thomas and Esteban Maroto. Now, I'm not a big sword and sorcery dude. You know, and I'm not especially a big, like, you know, like, kind of, like, epic fantasy kind of guy. But one, I like Roy Thomas. Two, this art is amazing. Like, just literally out of this world amazing. Come on, look at this. Look at this. This is really cool, dog. It's dynamic. It's beautiful. And three, Okay, hold on a second. And 3, signed by Roy Thomas. Like, yeah, no, I couldn't pass this up. This is great. Dog, I absolutely love this. God, this is so cool. It's kind of weird. Like I'm more and more getting into games like Elden Ring and Dark Souls and stuff like that, and it's kind of like making me want to like go back and like get into comics, kind of like Red Sonja and even Berserk, which I've always kind of liked Berserk. Berserk's always been like my sort of like fantasy cheat, you know. But yeah, no, this is really cool, and man, I don't know, dog. I liked it. But yeah, that's about it. I'm about to call it one. Thank you guys for watching. I love talking comics with y'all every week. It's great. Oh, and remember, I'm going to be going to Baltimore Comic Con this weekend. So I don't really know if any of you guys live on the East Coast, but you know, anyone who's like interested in going to Baltimore Comic Con, hit me up. I'll be there on Saturday and Sunday, and I'm also gonna like make a vlog. So just you know, if we don't cross each other's paths, you'll probably see where I was at least. And I'm gonna like try to take as many pictures as I possibly can with like, you know, Philip Kennedy Johnson and Mark Waid and Jimmy Palmiotti and all those dudes. But wait, sorry, I got distracted. Peter Parker's android parent. Yeah. God, you guys are still talking about like 90s Spider-Man. Oh, just not great vibes. But yeah, no, thanks for watching, guys, and as always, until next time, adios, achos, adios.